Today we are going to talk about one of the most feared and lethal warriors in the Bible. A man so fearless that he faced a lion in a pit and came out alive. But his name is rarely remembered. While many speak of David and Goliath, few know the story of Benaiah, the soldier who took down giants, defeated armies, and became the right hand of the king. How did he reach such a level of power? What made him a warrior unlike any other? Benaiah's story is not about luck or innate talent. He wasn't born with privileges, but was forged in the heat of battles and the rigor of brutal training. His name means Son of God, and his entire life reflected this calling. He didn't fight just to win. He fought with a greater purpose, something that went beyond personal glory. And that made him not just a warrior, but a legend. The most impressive part? His journey wasn't limited to the battlefield. Benaiah was key in the succession of the throne of Israel and eliminated those who threatened the stability of the kingdom. He wasn't just an enforcer of justice. He was a strategist, a leader, and a man whose unshakable faith made him practically indestructible. How did a simple soldier become the commander of the army of the wisest king to ever exist? Get ready to discover how a man who started as an unknown warrior transformed into the guardian of the throne of Israel. What made Benaiah one of the deadliest warriors in the Bible? What can we learn from his journey? The answer may change the way you see courage, leadership, and destiny. But first, do you want to discover more about the mysteries and curiosities of the Bible? Subscribe to our channel now and activate the bell so you don't miss any content. This story still echoes today. How many are there who, driven by ambition or dissatisfaction, try to usurp what does not belong to them? The end of Korah was a warning for all humanity. Pride precedes the fall, Proverbs 16:18, and those who rise up against God do not stand. May we learn from this episode and understand that true leadership comes from God, not from human will. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was not raised in luxury or comfort. His childhood unfolded in Kabul, a border city constantly plagued by conflicts and invasions. It was an environment where only the strong survived, and where each day was a lesson in resilience and strategy. From an early age, Benaiah learned that peace was not a permanent state, but something earned through effort and courage. Therefore, his formation was shaped not only by faith, but by the steel of battles and the heat of struggle. The fact that he grew up in a border city made him develop a sharp awareness of the dangers around him. He didn't just train to defend himself, but understood war as an inevitable reality, an arena where intelligence mattered as much as strength. With each enemy invasion, with each new confrontation, he honed his skills, transforming into a natural-born warrior. His strategic vision, cultivated from his youth, would make him a respected name among Israel's greatest fighters. In addition to his martial skills, Benaiah grew up under strong influence from the Levitical tradition. His lineage was not only warrior-like, but also priestly, bringing a unique sense of purpose to his life. He didn't fight just for glory or survival, but for something greater, the preservation of a people chosen by God. This set him apart from the other warriors of his time. His conviction that he was part of a divine plan gave him unwavering confidence in the face of danger, a faith that made him practically invincible. Each battle won in his youth was preparation for even greater challenges to come. Destiny hadn't placed Benaiah in Kabul by chance. He was being forged in the fire of adversity to become one of the most feared warriors in history. His name was not yet recognized among the greats, but the first pieces of his legacy were already being built. What would come next would require not only courage, but a deep understanding of his own calling. It wasn't just a designation, but a reflection of his destiny. Benaiah, derived from the Hebrew BENAIAH, means the Lord built or Son of God. This name wasn't a mere coincidence, but a prophetic declaration about his life. From his birth, it was clear that he carried with him a divine purpose, a calling that went beyond war and politics. His name was a constant reminder that his strength and deeds didn't come only from his hands, but from the will of God. In times of war and instability, the faith of a warrior could be his greatest shield. While many soldiers relied only on sharp swords and trained arms, Benaiah understood that true invincibility came from a covenant with God. His name resonated among the armies of Israel as a reminder that those who fight for a divine purpose are never alone. Each battle he faced, each victory he won, was a living testimony that he was not just a strong man, but an instrument of something greater. The weight of a name like his carried responsibility. It wasn't enough to be brave on the battlefield. He had to be pure of heart. Just as David was called a man after God's own heart, 1 Samuel 13:14, Benaiah needed to be more than a fearless soldier. He had to be a just leader and a faithful warrior. His actions reflected this truth, for he didn't just defeat enemies, but protected what was sacred. His sword was not for vanity, but for divine purpose. If Benaiah's name was a reflection of his identity, his deeds would confirm it. Biblical records not only mention his name, but exalt his feats, showing that he embodied the essence of his calling. But what was to come would require more than just a strong name. He would have to prove, through blood and sweat, that he was worthy of the meaning he carried. And when the opportunity arose, he did not hesitate. The strength of a warrior is not built only on the battlefield but at home. And Benaiah had the privilege of being trained by one of the most remarkable men of his time. Jehoiada, his father, was not just a Levite, but also a respected commander, a man who understood both spiritual and physical warfare. From an early age, Benaiah was taught to balance these two realities: devotion to God and the need to protect his people. What he learned was not just how to fight, but how to wage war with purpose. Unlike many warriors who grew up with only military training, Benaiah had an education that went beyond sword and shield. His father taught him the importance of obedience to God, discipline, and courage grounded in faith. The Levitical tradition made him understand that a soldier without principles was merely a mercenary. He learned that his strength did not come only from his arms, but from the Spirit who guided him. This made him a unique combatant, someone who did not act on impulse but on conviction. In addition to his spiritual training, Jehoiada molded his son to face real battles. From a young age, Benaiah was exposed to military strategies, weaponry, and leading men. His father did not spare him from challenges. On the contrary, he placed him in situations that required skill and quick thinking. Thus, when Benaiah eventually found himself in actual combat, he was not frightened. His preparation had been forged under the guidance of someone who knew that one day his son would face challenges far greater than any training could simulate. The lessons he received at home were the foundation of everything he would later achieve. The influence of Jehoiada was a decisive factor in making Benaiah one of the most feared warriors in the Bible. But as valuable as paternal training was, it would not be enough for the challenges ahead. The time would come when he would have to prove his strength and legacy in the heat of battle, where every decision could mean life or death. And he was ready. The true value of a warrior is not measured by his words, but by his deeds. Benaiah's courage was tested when he faced two of the most formidable warriors of the Moabites. The Moabites were not just ordinary enemies. They were descendants of Lot and historically represented a persistent threat to Israel. Known for their brutality and combat skills, facing two of their greatest warriors was no small feat. But Benaiah was no ordinary man. This confrontation wasn't an ordinary battle. The Bible highlights this fight because it not only proved Benaiah's skill, but also his endurance and fearlessness. War is not for the faint of heart, and in this combat, he showed he was ready for the greatest challenges. He didn't just survive the clash against the Moabites, he eliminated them, securing the victory for Israel and reinforcing his reputation as one of the most feared warriors of his time. Defeating two elite warriors in a single fight was no trivial matter. It required not only brute strength, but strategy and agility. While others might have hesitated, Benaiah pressed forward. His technique, precision, and faith kept him steady. It was clear that he didn't rely solely on his own abilities, but understood that God was with him on the battlefield. Just as David defeated Goliath, not with a sword, but with trust in the Lord, 1 Samuel 17:45, Benaiah also fought with the conviction that his mission went beyond earthly battles. This victory over the Moabites solidified his position among the warriors of Israel. The news spread, and his name began to be remembered among the greats. But this was only the beginning. Proving himself in a fight against human warriors was one thing. Facing something far fiercer and more unpredictable would require an even greater level of courage. His next battle would not be against men, but against a beast that few would dare confront. Fighting against men was already a challenge in itself, but Benaiah showed a level of courage that transcended the ordinary when he faced a wild beast. The Bible records that he went down into a pit and killed a lion on a snowy day. 2 Samuel 23:20. To many, this would seem like suicide. Such an animal has enough strength to crush a man in seconds. But Benaiah did not retreat. He didn't wait for the threat to come to him. He took the initiative and descended into danger. The detail of the snowy day makes the feat even more impressive. The snow made the ground slippery, reduced visibility, and hindered movement. Any misstep could have been fatal, but Benaiah was not driven by fear, but by determination. His boldness reflected a confidence that went beyond human ability. He understood that his life was in God's hands. Just as David declared before facing Goliath, "The Lord will deliver me," 1 Samuel 17:37, Benaiah also faced the unimaginable knowing he was not alone. And if killing a lion was already a rare feat, facing an Egyptian giant armed with an enormous spear made everything even more grand. This warrior was not only physically superior, but was armed with an imposing weapon, while Benaiah had only a staff. The situation seemed completely unfavorable. But he acted with intelligence. He disarmed the giant, took his spear, and defeated him. Here, he didn't win only with strength, but with strategy. These feats were not mere isolated acts of bravery. They were signs that Benaiah was being prepared for something greater. He was not just an ordinary soldier, but someone who demonstrated unique qualities: initiative, intelligence, courage, and unshakable faith. King David, who always knew how to recognize exceptional warriors, would not take long to notice this name. Benaiah was about to be called to something even grander, to become part of the king's elite guard. Being a warrior in Israel already required skill, but being part of the Gibborim, the elite warriors of David, was a privilege reserved for the most exceptional. These men were not ordinary soldiers. They were an elite force, feared for their bravery and unwavering loyalty to the king. David did not choose warriors based only on brute strength, but on their ability to fight with strategy and their faith in God. Benaiah, with his impressive background, not only joined this elite group, but stood out among the greatest. His role within David's mighty men was not decorative. He was one of the leaders of this elite group, a man whose presence on the battlefield was decisive. While many warriors sought fame and personal glory, Benaiah served with a greater purpose: the safety of the king and the protection of the kingdom. His loyalty to David was not based solely on a military oath, but on the certainty that God had chosen this man to rule Israel. Life within this elite unit required more than combat skills. It demanded a level of discipline and loyalty that few possessed. Benaiah repeatedly proved that not only was he worthy of this position, but his courage surpassed that of many. He was always ready for the toughest missions, facing challenges that would make others hesitate, and never questioning his orders when he knew they were aligned with a divine purpose. But being one of David's mighty men was not the pinnacle of his journey. God had even greater plans for Benaiah. While many warriors were content to remain on the battlefield, he would be called to a role that would require not only strength and courage, but intelligence and discernment. Over time, he would transition from being just a soldier to a more strategic position in the history of Israel. When David grew old, the struggle for the throne of Israel intensified. Among the king's sons, Adonijah tried to proclaim himself heir without divine blessing and without David's official approval. This period was marked by intrigue, secret alliances, and betrayals within the royal house. It was in this chaotic scenario that Benaiah, already a seasoned warrior and experienced strategist, played a crucial role. His unwavering loyalty to God's purpose made him one of the pillars in the transition of the kingdom to Solomon. Unlike Joab, who allied himself with Adonijah and tried to secure his own influence in the new government, Benaiah remained faithful to David's will and to God's promise. He became one of Solomon's main supporters, ensuring that the divine plan would not be thwarted by human conspiracies. His actions were decisive. While many hesitated to choose a side, Benaiah had no doubts. He understood that the reign of Israel was not merely a political matter, but a fulfillment of the divine purpose. It was he who accompanied the priest Zadok and the prophet Nathan in anointing Solomon as king, an event that dismantled Adonijah's attempt to seize the throne by force. Solomon's official proclamation, made with the support of men like Benaiah, struck fear in the hearts of the rebels. The presence of this warrior alongside the new king was not just symbolic but a clear sign that any threat to the throne would not be tolerated. David's throne had a firm and determined guardian. Benaiah's loyalty to Solomon was not just an act of respect for David, but a reflection of his conviction that the kingdom of Israel was guided by God. However, the struggle for power was not over. Even after Solomon's coronation, there were still enemies that needed to be neutralized to ensure the stability of the new government. And when the time came to act, Benaiah did not hesitate to carry out his next mission with precision and firmness. The beginning of Solomon's reign was not peaceful. Despite the official acclamation, some powerful figures still posed a threat to the kingdom's stability. Among them, Adonijah, Joab, and Shimei were willing to challenge the new order. But Solomon would not have to deal with these traitors alone. He had by his side a man who knew how to act with precision and determination. Benaiah was chosen for one of the most delicate tasks of the new government, eliminating those who threatened God's will over Israel. The first order was against Adonijah, who, even after losing the throne, still tried to manipulate the court for influence. He asked for Abishag, David's concubine, as his wife, a gesture that, in the culture of the time, symbolized a claim to the throne. Solomon saw the plot and ordered his execution. Benaiah was the executor of the sentence, eliminating Adonijah's last threat to power. With a single blow, he ended the rebels' ambitions and further consolidated Solomon's reign. The second target was Joab, the former commander of David's army. Experienced and shrewd, Joab realized that his betrayal of David and his support for Adonijah had sealed his fate. In desperation, he fled to the tabernacle and clung to the horns of the altar, seeking sacred refuge. But divine justice could not be avoided. Solomon ordered that Benaiah execute him right there, without hesitation. And so he did, eliminating a man who, despite his past glory, had become a danger to the nation. With these actions, Benaiah not only strengthened Solomon's government, but also assumed a prominent position. After Joab's execution, he was appointed commander of the army, replacing the man who had once been Israel's most powerful military leader. But his journey would not end there. His legacy would not just be that of an executor of justice, but of a leader who would show the people of Israel the true meaning of loyalty and integrity. Benaiah was not only a formidable warrior, but an example of unwavering loyalty. He did not seek personal glory, conspire for power, or deviate from the divine purpose. His life was marked by absolute devotion to God's calling and just leadership. In times of betrayal and instability, he remained firm. His loyalty to David and Solomon was not out of convenience, but conviction. He knew that the true leader was not the one who sought personal greatness, but the one who served the greater plan. When he took command of the Israelite army, Benaiah became more than a soldier. He became a guide for a new generation of warriors. Under his leadership, the nation experienced a period of military stability, essential for the flourishing of Solomon's kingdom. Unlike many commanders who lose themselves in the pride of their position, he led with justice and discernment. His strength did not come only from the sword, but from the wisdom gained over years of battles and trials. His journey teaches us that true power lies in loyalty. He had many opportunities to pursue his own rise, but he never compromised his integrity. In a world where ambition destroys kings and betrayal corrodes empires, Benaiah showed that a man's greatest strength does not lie in the number of enemies he defeats, but in the firmness of his character. He did not only fight for Israel, he was a foundation for the kingdom to prosper under God's blessing. The name of Benaiah echoes not only as that of a feared warrior, but as that of a man whose life was a living testimony of obedience and courage. His story is not just about battles and victories, but about an unwavering heart in the face of the divine purpose. While many powerful men were forgotten, his memory remains as an example of leadership and faith. But what truly made him one of the greatest? The answer lies in his willingness to fight not for himself, but for God's plan. Benaiah was not just a courageous soldier. He was a man who understood that his strength came from something much greater than muscles and sharp weapons. Each battle he faced, Each enemy he struck down was not just a demonstration of skill, but of purpose. He knew that fighting without a higher reason was empty. For this reason, he never sought his own glory, but served the divine purpose with unwavering loyalty. And that is what made him more than a warrior. It made him a legend. Unlike so many other soldiers who rise and disappear in history, BENAIAH left a legacy that influenced the fate of Israel. He showed that the true strength of a leader does not lie just in his ability to win battles, but in his unquestionable loyalty. While many change sides when power is at stake, he remained firm. When betrayal spread throughout the kingdom, he remained loyal. His sword was never moved by ambition, but by a higher calling. But perhaps BENAIAH's greatest lesson is this: what defines a true warrior is not the size of the enemies he faces, but the firmness of his heart. Many have strength, few have purpose. Many fight, few know what they are fighting for. And those who understand this not only win battles but leave a legacy that spans generations. And now I ask you, what would make you a warrior like BENAIAH? It is not just about strength, but about commitment. About understanding that some battles are not optional, that sometimes you must go down into the pit, face the lion, and come out stronger than you entered. Because those who have the courage to fight the right battles are the ones who truly make history. Thank you so much for watching this video and for joining us on this beautiful journey through the stories of the Bible. If you felt touched and inspired, subscribe to the channel to receive more content that deepens our faith and spirituality. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and share this video with others who are also seeking divine inspiration. May God bless you.